Hi and welcome to my English channel. Are you learning English? That's awesome. Let's learn English together through some exciting stories. But first, tell me, which country are you watching from? I'd love to know how far this message has reached. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Alright, let's get started.
Laura is a 34-year-old woman who has been married to Daniel, a 39-year-old man, for almost 10 years. Together, they have a sweet 7-year-old daughter named Mia, who fills their home with laughter. For many years, their family life was warm and peaceful. Every evening, after finishing their day, Laura and Daniel sat together with a cup of tea. They talked about work, about Mia, and about their dreams for the future. Those quiet moments made Laura feel safe and loved, and she believed their marriage was strong and unbreakable. But she didn't know that everything would soon begin to change. In the past few months, Daniel had started to change in ways that Laura could not ignore. He became distant, quiet, and distracted, as if he no longer noticed what was happening at home. Every evening, he came home late, ate his dinner quickly, and retreated straight to his study or bedroom. The small family routines that used to bring warmth and laughter, like talking about their day, playing with Mia, or going out on weekends, disappeared completely. The house felt quieter, colder, almost empty, even when all three of them were there. Laura tried to catch his attention, to start conversations or make plans, but Daniel seemed too preoccupied with work or his own thoughts to respond. Slowly, she began to feel invisible in her own home. The joy and connection that had once defined their family life were fading, and Laura could no longer ignore the growing distance between her and Daniel. Laura desperately wanted to bring back the closeness that had once defined their family. One evening, she prepared Daniel's favorite meal, a creamy mushroom pasta he had always loved. She even put on the blue dress he had complimented many times, hoping to catch his attention and remind him of the warmth they once shared. To create a quiet and intimate moment, she sent little Mia to her sister's house for the evening, thinking that just the two of them alone might rekindle their connection. Laura set the table carefully, lit a candle, and waited for Daniel to come home, her heart full of hope and anxiety. When Daniel finally arrived, he barely noticed the meal or her dress. He nodded politely, greeted her with a tired smile, and went straight to his study, leaving Laura stunned and heartbroken. She tried to start a conversation, asking gently about his day and sharing a few thoughts of her own, but Daniel responded with short, distracted answers. Despite all her careful planning and loving gestures, he remained distant and silent. That night, Laura went to bed feeling invisible, realizing that her efforts alone could not bridge the growing gap between them. After weeks of growing distance, Laura knew she could no longer stay silent. One evening, she waited for Daniel to come home, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. She gently asked him if they could talk. Daniel looked surprised, unsure, but agreed reluctantly. They sat together on the couch, the quiet tension between them heavier than any words. Laura tried to stay calm, taking a deep breath before speaking. She asked the question that had been weighing on her for weeks, "Do you still love me?" Daniel hesitated, then nodded. "Of course I do," he said, his voice tired. Laura's heart hoped, but she still felt uneasy. She then asked the question she had been too afraid to voice, "Is there someone else?" Daniel looked shocked, almost offended. No, never, he said quickly. I'm just stressed. Work is hard, and I have too much on my mind. But I love you, Laura. Please be patient with me. Laura listened carefully, studying his face, noticing his tired eyes and the way he reached for her hand. She wanted to believe him. She decided to trust him for now, telling herself to be patient and give him time, hoping that this difficult chapter could be the beginning of reconnection. After the difficult conversation with Daniel, Laura tried to hold on to a small glimmer of hope. She believed that if she could create special moments, he might reconnect with her and their family. She planned a weekend picnic in the park, carefully choosing Daniel's favorite foods and packing a blanket, thinking it could bring back laughter and closeness. She even bought him a small gift, a watch he had once admired, hoping that thoughtful gestures would remind him of their shared happiness. Laura spent days imagining the joy on his face, hoping they could recapture the warmth and love that had been slipping away. But Daniel's response was always the same. He apologized but said he was too busy with work or had meetings that he couldn't miss. Each excuse chipped away at Laura's hope. The picnic was postponed, the gift was left unopened. Even simple requests to spend a quiet evening together were met with distraction and tiredness. Laura began to feel the weight of invisibility pressing down on her, a reminder that her efforts alone could not heal the distance between them. One night, she walked down the hallway toward Daniel's study, determined to speak to him or simply share a moment of presence. She raised her hand to knock, but paused. The door loomed before her like a barrier, and she suddenly realized she felt like a stranger in her own home. Her heart sank as she stepped back, the sound of her own footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. That night, Laura sat alone, clutching her tea, feeling the loneliness and frustration that had become a constant companion. The house was quiet, but inside her, the emptiness was loud, and the hope she had been holding so carefully began to fade. After weeks of feeling invisible and unheard, Laura realized that staying in the house with Daniel was slowly breaking her spirit. Every day, she tried to reach him with small acts of love, but each attempt was met with indifference or polite distraction. Her heart ached as she watched him focus on work while the life they once shared seemed to disappear. One quiet evening, after another day of failed efforts, Laura made a difficult decision. She knew that to protect herself and her daughter, she needed to step away, at least temporarily. She carefully packed a small bag for herself and another for little Mia. She included the essentials, clothes, toiletries, and a few favorite toys for Mia, but left behind all the familiar items that tied them to the home they had once shared. On the kitchen table, Laura placed a letter addressed to Daniel. Her hands trembled as she wrote each word, pouring her heart onto the paper. In the letter, she explained that she still loved him deeply but could not carry the marriage alone. She told him that she needed time to breathe, to think, and to feel like herself again. She wanted him to understand that her leaving was not a betrayal but a necessary step for her own peace and for Mia's well-being. That night, Laura took Mia's hand and quietly left the house. They walked together into the dark, leaving behind the familiar rooms that had become cold and distant. As they reached her sister's home, Laura felt a mixture of sorrow and relief. Though her heart ached, she also felt a small spark of hope, hope that stepping away might help her heal, regain her strength, and perhaps one day rebuild her life on her own terms. It was a painful decision, but for the first time in months, Laura felt a sense of control over her own life. A week after Laura and Mia had left, the house felt emptier than ever. The silence that had once been heavy and suffocating now seemed permanent. Laura spent her days at her sister's home, watching Mia play and trying to rebuild a sense of normalcy. She cooked simple meals, read books she had long forgotten, and took walks to clear her mind. Yet, even amidst these small routines, her heart ached for Daniel and the family life she had once cherished. She missed the little moments, Mia's laughter, Daniel's smile, and the warm evenings when they had sat together sharing tea and stories. Then one afternoon, a message appeared on her phone. It was from Daniel. His words were simple but full of emotion. He missed Laura and Mia, and he wanted to try again. He admitted that he had been distant and distracted, and he promised to work on himself and their relationship. Reading those words, Laura felt a mixture of hope and caution. Could she trust him again? Could the love they once had be revived? After long discussions with her sister and quiet reflection, Laura decided to give Daniel another chance. She packed a small bag for Mia and herself, feeling a nervous excitement she hadn't felt in months. As they drove back to their home, her heart beat fast. She hoped this return could mark a new beginning, a chance to heal the broken parts of their marriage and rediscover the closeness they had lost. Deep down, she knew it would take time, patience, and effort from both of them. But for the first time in weeks, a small spark of optimism glimmered in her heart. Maybe, just maybe, their family could be whole again. One quiet evening, after putting Mia to bed, Laura walked into the living room where Daniel had left his phone on the coffee table. The screen lit up suddenly, catching her attention. A notification appeared, a message from a woman she didn't know. The words on the screen froze her in place. "I miss you. Did you think of me today?" Laura's heart stopped, her chest tightening with shock and disbelief. She didn't need to open the message to know what it meant. A cold wave of reality washed over her, and suddenly all the doubts, all the small signs she had tried to ignore, became painfully clear. Her hands shook slightly as she backed away, tears forming in her eyes. She felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and heartbreak. The Daniel she had tried to believe in, the man who had once held her heart so gently, had been giving attention to someone else all along. Laura couldn't understand how he could act as if nothing had changed, as if their shared years and family life were unaffected. When Daniel returned to the room, smiling casually, Laura could not hide her feelings. She confronted him, her voice calm but firm, asking about the message she had seen. Daniel's eyes widened slightly, and he seemed to falter for a moment. Then, instead of denying or explaining, he simply whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." No excuses. No attempt to justify. The silence that followed was heavier than any words. Laura felt the final weight of truth pressing down on her. The distance, the broken trust, and the hidden attention he had given to someone else were undeniable. In that moment, she realized that love alone might not be enough to save their relationship, and that she needed to take care of herself first. After seeing the message and confronting Daniel, Laura felt a heaviness in her chest that she could no longer ignore. She realized, with a painful clarity, that all her efforts, all her patience, and all her love had not been enough to restore the closeness in their marriage. She had given her heart fully, hoping for change, yet the gap between them remained wide and unbridgeable. The man she had trusted, loved, and shared her life with had allowed someone else into his thoughts, and the reality of it left her feeling small and invisible in her own home. That evening, Laura made a quiet, firm decision. She would not continue to endure this pain silently. She packed a small bag for herself and Mia, carefully including their essentials, but also items that gave her comfort, Mia's favorite toy, a few books, and a small photo album of happier times. She left a note on the kitchen table, expressing that she still loved Daniel, but she could not be the only one trying to save their marriage. She explained that she needed time and space to heal, to feel like herself again, and to protect her daughter from the silent tension that had filled their home. Taking Mia's hand, Laura walked out of the house into the cool, quiet evening. Each step felt heavy, yet freeing. She was leaving not out of anger, but out of self-respect and love for her own well-being. For the first time in months, she felt the faint stirrings of peace. The story of her family's struggle did not end with bitterness, but with a woman choosing herself, her child, and the chance to heal, showing that sometimes the bravest act of love is knowing when to let go.
Thank you so much for watching this story. If you enjoyed it and learned something new, don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends. Maybe they need a little reminder to be brave and kind too. And if you love stories like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Every week, we share new English stories that are simple, beautiful, and full of life lessons. Stories that help you learn English naturally while touching your heart. Remember, learning English doesn't have to be hard. It can be peaceful, meaningful, and fun, one story at a time. So, see you in the next video, and until then, keep learning, keep smiling, and keep being kind.